Read-alouds involving instructional strategies, depending on the grade level and children's needs, support children's literacy learning. In these classrooms, teachers use read-alouds to model the application of strategies for word recognition, describe and model strategies for ascertaining the meaning of unfamiliar vocabulary, build knowledge of informational text structures, and describe and model comprehension strategies.
So read-alouds play a major role in my classroom. We do them at least once a day. And when I choose a book for a read-aloud, it has a very specific instructional purpose. So for example, if I wanted to teach a word recognition strategy, I would do that based on the book that I chose. So today we are going to revisit a book called George and Martha, and it's the first story in the book. And we chose this story because we wanted to focus on teaching students how to slide through words. When they come to a word and they don't know how to pronounce it, I want them to be able to look at each letter in the word, say the sound those letters make, and slide through it. So I've noticed when some of you are reading on your own, you're looking at the first letter in the word, and then you're just guessing any word that starts with that letter. And what I really want you to focus on is looking at every letter in the word and saying the sounds, and then sliding through them all to figure out the word. When I teach my students the sliding through the word strategy with this book, I will read a sentence or two from the book and find a word that I know they could hear the individual sounds in. Here's a word that I would like to try sliding through. So I'm going to say the sound that each letter makes and then put those sounds together. Not. Let me reread the sentence. If there was one thing that George was not fond of, it was split pea soup. Can you model for us how to slide through this word, please?
Ten.
Nice job. One day after George had eaten 10 bowls of Martha's soup, he said to himself, I just can't stand another bowl, not even another spoonful. How do you expect to walk home with your loafers full of... I found another word that I think we should practice sliding through. Can you all practice it with me? Split. How do you expect to walk home with your loafers full of split pea soup? She asked George. So as students start to use the sliding through the word strategy more and more, I see kind of that light bulb moment where they realize the importance of looking at the word and saying each individual sound. Whereas before, if a student is just using the initial sound and guessing a word, they're not really checking for meaning. And when they really start to utilize the sliding through the word strategy, they have that moment where they say, oh, this makes sense. And as a reader, that's what we want them to accomplish, is self-correcting and being aware of what they're reading.
During a read aloud, I have a goal or a strategy that I'm planning to teach. And once I model and I have some participation from the students, the goal is that they will go back to their seats with their choice book and use that same strategy to build on comprehension. In today's lesson, I'm going to reread parts of the story, The Statue of Liberty. I'm going to help the children notice word parts of unfamiliar words. I'm going to stop on a couple of pages and point out some tricky words that may be unfamiliar to the children and break apart their word parts and make some connections between new words and words they already know. The work on the island went on, and soon the pedestal was completed. Piece by piece, the skeleton was raised. Then the copper skin was riveted in place. Liberty was put back together like a giant puzzle. The statue had been built not once, but twice. So the word that we're looking at is pedestal. This is our word for today. When you take a look at pedestal, are there any other words that start the same?
Pedestrian.
Pedestrian.
Fancy.
I know. What's a pedestrian?
Somebody who's walking.
Someone who's walking. Any others?
Pedal. Pedicure.
Pedicure. What do these three words have in common? Like, what do we notice here?
PED.
PED. And PED says?
Ped.
Yes. So we have PED. Do we know what PED means? Like the root word, what it means? Think about this. A pedicure is done on your
feet.
Oh. Okay, when you pedal, use your
feet.
If you're a pedestrian, you are
Walking.
so you're using your
Feet.
So then we could probably conclude that ped is the root word for foot. So the pedestal is the foot or the base that the Statue of Liberty sits on. Read alouds are important in third grade. It's a way for me to model appropriate phrasing, model fluency. It's a way for me to read with expression. It's a way for them to see the text come alive.
Read alouds with kindergartners are usually no longer than 20 minutes. The more interactive they are, the more successful they are. So I typically like to start with introducing the book. I set the purpose for them. They typically repeat the purpose to me. And then I stop at different spots. And those are spots where I usually ask them an open-ended question or prompt them to turn and talk with each other about the strategy that we're working on. So in the book that I will be teaching for my read aloud, it has a compare and contrast text structure. It's an informational text called Biggest, Strongest, Fastest. And the author has written it in a way that he is comparing human facts or characteristics to animal characteristics. There's also an image in the corner that shows an animal being compared and contrasted to a human. What does this image tell you about what an ant is capable of carrying or what a human is capable of carrying?
Ants are a little bit stronger than humans, because a human can weigh 1 human and an ant can weigh 5 ants.
So you see that an ant is capable of carrying 5 ants, so 5 times its own body weight, and a human is capable of carrying 1 time its own body weight, or 1 human. Let's look at the giraffe. If you're looking at this picture, what are you learning about how giraffes are the same or different from humans?
A giraffe is taller than the human.
A giraffe is much taller than a human. This author, Steve Jenkins, he showed us, he compared and contrasted humans to other animals in this book. How do you think comparing and contrasting humans to other animals helped you learn the information the author wanted you to learn in this book?
I told you how much stronger and bigger they were than the humans.
So you learned how much stronger an ant is than a human, or just how strong an ant is. You learned, your second one was how big an animal could be, like the blue whale. So comparing and contrasting humans to animals can help you really understand how big, how strong, how fast certain animals are. I found this year that when I focus on nonfiction or informational units, my students are even more engaged than when we focus on a narrative topic, because they've come to see how they can take control of their own learning, and it kind of sparks that interest in a variety of topics. And I see them asking more questions and searching out books on that topic and really having more conversations with each other about these real world topics.
In third grade, it's important to learn the skill of making inferences, because there may be a lot of things in the book that aren't explicitly written, but the writer wants you to know it, and it will help initially with their comprehension. And you have to be able to look beyond the words and apply some of your own knowledge to figure out what's really going on. Okay, boys and girls, today we're going to work on another reading strategy that helps us while we're reading. But I have a question for you. Have you ever heard the phrase, read between the lines? No. Yes, I hear a few yeses. Well, read between the lines is used when they want you to figure out something that isn't explicitly written in the text. So you get to be story detectives. Okay? And we like being story detectives. We do. But read between the lines is just a fancy way of saying making inferences. So good readers make inferences. And you use what you already know, and you use a little bit or most of what's in the text to figure out more of the story. Today I'm going to be reading Dear Mrs. LaRue, Letters from Obedience School. There's a dog named Ike who's sent to obedience school, and he gives us a different look as to what is really going on. So I thought it would be a great segue into reteaching about making inferences. Who will help us cross the street while I'm away? You know you have a bad habit of not looking both ways. Think of all the times I've saved you. Well, there was that one time anyway. I must say you weren't very grateful, complaining on and on about the tiny rip in your ratty old coat. But the point is, you need me. Yours, Ike. So he mentions the tiny rip in Mrs. LaRue's ratty old coat. Why would he say it like that? And how did she get a rip in her coat?
I think Ike chewed her coat, and she got mad at him.
But why would he say, your ratty old coat?
To try to make things seem better. Because he chewed a hole in it, and it'd be madder if it was like a brand new coat, but when he said it's your ratty old coat, then he's trying to make things better.
Yes.
He said ratty old coat because he's trying to make it look like it isn't a big deal. That is just an old coat.
After the whole group lesson of making inferences, there are several checkpoints throughout the year where I will go and watch to see if children are making inferences during their independent reading. Read-alouds are a very important part of our day. It's a way that I can model and show kids various strategies that are needed while reading to build upon their comprehension. And then it's the way that they're engaged. They're fun. To see the excitement of them discovering something that they didn't know and being able to apply it. And I feel as if it just opens up the book and it makes them connect with the book more.
Learn more at literacyessentials.org.